you always are. You are fucking the nation's little brother. I swear to God.
He's a great.
Honestly, you are. Like, everybody who comes in contact with you falls in love with you and then feels the need to give you endless shit. Like you're little. Everyone. What is that vibe?
Stand up.
Did you recognize that voice? That was Lizz Winstead, and I absolutely loved it. And you can hear our conversation coming up later on. But hello, we have started. It's Monday. It's Thanksgiving week, and I hope that you're doing all right. I hope you've got some plans to take some time off, and maybe you're spending it with people you like or even love. I'm real excited to take the girls up to see my parents in upstate New York for Thanksgiving for a couple days, and I'm very happy that you are here with me. I'll be doing shows all week, I think, probably. Gonna rack up a few interviews, and also had a really great conversation with my good friend Steve Chase and his co-author Brad Michaeljohn, who've written a new book called Letters from the Mountain about the Rocky Mountain Club in the White Mountains of New Hampshire, where more than 7 decades men, women have worked as camp caretakers. It's this amazing place, and the stories that come out of it and that they shared with me, and just their lives and careers working in the outdoors and in conservation. I'm excited to share that with you on Thursday of this week for your Thanksgiving drive, like I'll have. You can look forward to that. You can also look forward to tonight's hangout. I'm going to host a hangout here on a Monday night because I won't be able to do it Thursday. It's Thanksgiving, and there's a lot of crazy shit to talk about and discuss, and just want to get together with you one more time before Thanksgiving. A little hangout on Monday night. I hope to see you tonight at 8 East if you're a paid subscriber. And if you're not, sign up now. Patreon.com/Pete Dominic. Also, who's on the show today? Dr. Rob Davidson is joining me in the first guest interview. And then I tagged my conversation with Dean Obeidallah and Lizz Winstead on Dean's SiriusXM show from Friday night. I got that for you as well as a little bonus conversation. So Dr. Rob Davidson, Executive Director of the Committee to Protect Healthcare. He's an ER doctor out in Western Michigan. Awesome conversation with Rob. He's always great. Love talking to him. That starts at 40 minutes. Or if you want to jump to my conversation with Dean and Lizz, it was funny and smart, as it always is with the two of them. That begins at hour 10 minutes. I've got your shit show coming up in just a minute, but a couple of things real quick. First of all, J.L. Covan has announced he's running for Congress in New Jersey. There's a lot to say about that, but you could send him money right now. And if you know anybody in his district, you can look it up. It's in north central New Jersey, New Jersey 11. It's where Congresswoman Mikey Sherrill represented, and now she is going to be the governor. It's an open seat now, and so JL is jumping in, and we're real excited about it. It's going to be a pretty tough primary. He's collecting signatures as we speak, and it's a lot. It's a lot, and if we can support him, I think it would be a wonderful thing for this community to get behind. He's always been behind us. I truly believe in the guy. I think he's smart. I think he's got a lot of moral clarity, and I'm absolutely rooting for him and worried about him because it's so much work, and he already does so much. But check out JL's website. It's JL4NJ, JL4NJ.com. We're rooting for you, buddy, if you're hearing this, and I'll talk to you soon. We'll get him on here to talk about it as soon as we can. Maybe I'll get him to stop by tonight's hangout, as a matter of fact. That's a good idea. I'll invite him for sure. And finally, save the date. PodJam 3, April 9th through 12th in Las Vegas. Save the date. PodJam 3, April 9th through 12th. I hope to see you there. We're producing, developing, deciding what we're going to do for the program and where. It's going to be at a bar or restaurant. It's going to be, we're learning each time how to make it better this year. J.L. Covan and the Black Guy Who Tips podcast, Rod and his wife and co-host, are going to join us. It's going to be the three of us trying to mix and connect our communities, because that's what I'm trying to do now, is build community, and I'm really looking forward to PodJam 3. So save the date. There is a ticket link in the show notes, and very soon we'll have a lot more announcements about what we're going to be able to do for PodJam 3. But there you go. It's happening. It's on. Excited. Can't wait to see you. I do want to say, before I get into today's shit show, one last thing, which is what I posted yesterday across social media. I talk about everything bad that's happening in the world for a living. Sometimes people ask, well, how do you do that every day? The answer for me, folks, is always this. If you look for the bad in the world, you're going to find it. But if you look for the good in the world, you can find that too. I feel like I've gotten pretty good at finding the good in the world, and so many of you listening are the reason for that. My hope is that you too can find the good in the world. And now let's do today's shit show. And now it's time for the shit show. And oh my goodness gracious, what a weekend it was. I mean, two huge stories on Friday with the announcement of Marjorie Taylor Greene resigning 2 days after she's going to get apparently her congressional pension. She'll be done. That's at the beginning of January. That was a really MAGA shattering story Friday night, but also the big story Friday was the mayor-elect of New York City, Zohran Mamdani, charming a snake in his office. That's right. Mamdani just absolutely rolls Trump in the White House. At least that's how it's seen by me and many others. Those were two huge stories. But then over the weekend, we learned this crazy story that there are multiple different people negotiating on behalf of the United States for an agreement in Ukraine and Russia. This, I don't think, is precedented. I don't know that there's any precedent for this. Normally, the normal way that countries work is that you have representatives that represent you, and you go and you negotiate a deal on something or another. In this case, you have competing representatives. Apparently, J.D. Vance and Marco Rubio are at odds now, but this is truly remarkable. And, well, let's go to Heather Cox Richardson in today's letter from her very popular Substack, Letters from an American. This is how it starts. Do I understand correctly that there is now a dispute within the administration about whether this, quote, peace plan was written by Russians or Americans? Foreign affairs journalist Ann Applebaum asked last night on social media. Applebaum was referring to confusion over a 28-point plan for an end to Russia's war on Ukraine that was reported by Axios' Barak Ravid and David Lawler last week. After the plan was leaked, apparently to Ravid by an ally of Vladimir Putin, a guy named Kirill Dmitriev, a guy who, by the way, is under U.S. sanctions, the vice president, J.D. Vance, came out strongly in support of it. But as scholar of strategic studies Phillips O'Brien noted in Phillips' newsletter, once it became widely known that the plan was written by the Russians, Secretary of State Marco Rubio tried to back away from it, posting on social media on Wednesday that ending a complex and deadly war, such as the one in Ukraine, requires an extensive exchange of serious and realistic ideas, and achieving a durable peace will require both sides to agree to difficult but necessary concessions. That is why we are and will continue to develop a list of potential ideas for ending this war based on input from both sides of the conflict. And yet, by Friday, Trump said he expected Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky to sign on to the plan by this Thursday, by Thanksgiving, November 27th. The former Senate Majority Leader, Mitch McConnell, then posted a statement that reads, Putin has spent the entire year trying to play President Trump for a fool. Rewarding Russian butchery would be disastrous to America's interests. And he said a lot more than that, by the way. Yesterday, a group of senators, foreign affairs specialists gathered in Halifax, Nova Scotia for the Halifax International Security Forum, which apparently is a big deal. And they told reporters that they'd spoken to Marco Rubio about the plan. Senator Angus King said Rubio had told them the document was not the administration's position, but rather a wish list of the Russians. Senator Mike Rounds, who's a Republican, said this administration was not responsible for the release in its current form. He added, I think he made it very clear to us that we are the recipients of a proposal that was delivered to one of our representatives. It is not our recommendation. It is not our peace plan. But then a spokesman for the State Department, a guy named Tommy Pigott, which probably got him in a lot of trouble in middle school, called the senator's account of the origins of the plan blatantly false, and Rubio abruptly switched course, posted on social media that, in fact, the U.S. had written the plan. Who wrote the Russian plan? Who wrote the peace plan? The Russians or the Americans? The Americans are getting rolled by the Russians. This is a huge story. Bill Kristol at the Bulwark, who I have no love for, reported that rumors that Vice President J.D. Vance was key to U.S. embrace of Russia's plan on Ukraine and kept Rubio and Trump out of the loop. What? He posted that relations between Vance and Rubio are awful and that Rubio did, in fact, tell senators what they said. So this is a big story. It matters a lot, and it is going nowhere very soon. All right, here are some other important news stories I saw over the weekend. Global climate negotiations ended Saturday in Brazil, and it's not good what happened in Brazil. A very watered-down resolution that made no direct mention of fossil fuels, which, of course, are the main driver for global warming. And let's see, the headlines about it are COP30 seals uneasy climate deal that sidesteps fossil fuels. That's Reuters. NBC News. With the world at COP30, Trump administration rolls back environmental rules. That's The Guardian says the UN warns world losing climate battle, but fragile COP30 deal keeps up the fight. And I'm going to dig into this myself today, and probably I'm going to try to get a guest, somebody to talk about it, but a lot to talk about with COP30 wrapping up and no mention of the fossil fuel industry. The final statement was roundly criticized by diplomats as insufficient and was a victory for oil producers like Saudi Arabia and Russia. It included plenty of warnings about the cost of inaction, but few provisions for how the world might address dangerously rising temperatures head on. Meanwhile, the Trump administration introduced a series of sweeping proposals to roll back environmental protections and encourage fossil fuel drilling. We didn't even send a delegation for the first time in the summit's history, by the way. Instead, the regime announced a plan to open up new oil drilling off the coasts of California and Florida for the first time in decades and proposed rule changes to weaken the Endangered Species Act and limit the Environmental Protection Agency's authority to protect wetlands and streams. Jesse Ritter, the Associate Vice President of Waters and Coasts for National Wildlife Federation and Conservation Group, says these rules double down on the administration's refusal to confront the climate crisis in a serious way and, in fact, move us in the opposite direction. A lot more to talk about, of course, with that, but that's one big story I wanted to mention. This is a pretty big story over the weekend, too, that Elon Musk's social media site, X, formerly known as Twitter, has rolled out a new feature in an effort to, quote, increase transparency, and unwittingly revealed that many of the site's top MAGA influencers are actually foreign actors. That's right, the new About This account feature allows others to see where an account is based when they join the platform, how they have changed their username, and how they downloaded the X app. Well, guess what? Upon rollout, rival factions began to inspect just where their online adversaries were really based on the combative social media platform, with dozens of major MAGA and right-wing influencer accounts revealed to be originating from, guess what, overseas. Dozens of major accounts masquerading as America First or MAGA proponents have been identified as originating places like, guess where, Russia, India, Nigeria. And one example, the account MAGA Nation X, with its nearly 400,000 followers and a bio reading Patriot Voice for We the People, actually based in Eastern Europe. And Ivanka, Trump fan account, Ivanka News, has 1 million followers and frequently posts about the dangers of Islam, the threat of illegal immigration, and support of Trump. That account, based in Nigeria. Yeah, how about it? A lot more to know about that one. Miami Herald investigative journalist Julie K. Brown, who's covered the Epstein case for years, says there's a lot of confusion on what constitutes the Epstein files, and she explains them, and I thought that was worth mentioning and going to see the 10 points that she explains about them, by the way. The Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent went on TV and said that people suffering from inflation should just move. He did. I've got the clip. He went on Meet the Press and said that if you want to bring inflation down, move from a blue state to a red state. Blue state inflation is 0.5% higher. What? Well, that might be the dumbest thing I've ever heard any cabinet secretary say, and we've heard a lot. But that one is got to be tops. I'll bring you that coming up in the clip show. Let's head overseas, where the Israeli military conducted a wave of strikes in Gaza, killing at least 20 people. So no peace, according to Gaza's health ministry. Israel and Hamas pointing fingers at each other for violating a ceasefire. The police in Brazil arrested the former president there, Jair Bolsonaro, amid fears that he might escape house arrest to avoid serving a 27-year prison sentence. I kind of want a 27-year house. I have to stay in my house prison sentence. Sounds fun. You know, give me a game system and some snacks and Netflix. Yeah, I don't know. Okay, maybe not. I want to go outside. Heartbreaking story we learned over the weekend. A 35-year-old daughter and granddaughter of JFK, daughter of Caroline Kennedy, revealed a terminal cancer diagnosis in an essay published on the anniversary of her grandfather's assassination. Tatiana Schlossberg, the 35-year-old daughter, also laced into RFK Jr., and it is worth reading over at the New Yorker. J.D. Vance's wife, Usha Vance, is dismissing that the fact that she wasn't wearing her wedding band is anything to read into. She says she forgot. She's busy. She's doing dishes, giving baths, and I'm sure she'll be wearing that wedding ring soon again. Meanwhile, her husband, J.D. Vance, was spotted with a suspicious stain on his dumb tuxedo shirt when he was meeting with the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia. Republicans are continuing to fight about whether or not they are Nazis. And those are the headlines that I've gathered for you from over the weekend. And now it's time to get to the clips, time to get to the clip show part of the shit show. All right, let's start with those senators who were in Canada, Nova Scotia, the Halifax International Security Forum, and you can hear from some of them, including starting with Angus King here, about the confusion over that. Who wrote the peace plan? Is it the Russians or the Americans?
An extraordinary weekend, both because of the sessions that we've had with people from all over the world, but also because of the communication, as was mentioned today, from Secretary Rubio and the leaked 28-point plan, which, according to Secretary Rubio, is not the administration's position. It is essentially the wish list of the Russians that is now being presented to the Europeans and to the Ukrainians. It does provide a guideline to try to narrow the issues between Ukraine and Russia. And the encouraging thing to me is that the administration is not attempting to negotiate this agreement unilaterally, but indeed is in close consultation in the next few days with Ukraine and with our European allies. So I think that's an important development. All of us read that statement yesterday. We're alarmed by it, I think. That's a fair statement. It turns out that it is a sort of a beginning point for negotiations, and we'll see where the discussions go from here. Everyone wants this war to end, but we want it to end on a fair and just peace that respects the integrity and the sovereignty of the country of Ukraine, and does not reward aggression, and also provides adequate security guarantees so that something like what occurred in 2022 does not occur again.
There you go, Angus King, trying to lay it out for you there. Now let's go to activist Latasha Brown, who I have a lot of admiration for, who I've joined, had on the show before. She is one of the leaders, organizers of the We Ain't Buying It campaign, weain'tbuyingit.com, which is an effort to pause on shopping from major companies that are enabling this regime. They say this Thanksgiving through Cyber Monday, let's make our dollars count. We're asking Americans to hit pause on shopping from major corporations, including Target, Amazon, and Home Depot. Here she is talking about it on CNN over the weekend.
This isn't a boycott. This is a consumer action. What we're saying is three things. One, we are reclaiming our power as consumers, that we will make more conscious choices, that part of the reason why we're working with 100 aligned organizations and millions of people, because we want, as consumers, we have a responsibility to be much more conscientious of how we spend our money. The second thing is really around redirecting our resources, that we're asking people to not spend with these large retailers, but we also are encouraging them to spend with small and local and black-owned businesses, many of them that have taken a hit in this economy. And then the third thing is really around resistance, that we're sending a message loud and clear that those companies that align with policies that hurt and harm us, that we are resistant. We will not support them. And so it's not just about how the bottom line of these companies in a boycott. It's also about the consumers' reactions. It's also about us really building a muscle that as consumers, we're saying and taking our power, and that we have to be more conscious around our spending choices.
Yeah. Did you see one of the things they're doing at Home Depot is they had people, one of the actions was that you go into Home Depot and you buy this 19-cent ice scraper or something like that, and then you return it immediately to clog up the lines. And I'm sure Home Depot customers were not too happy about that, but it is an effective action. I like it. I'm for it. All right, here now let's go to CNN's Jake Tapper, because he had our Queen, Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett on to get her reaction on the shocking news on Friday of Marjorie Taylor Greene's resignation, effective January 5th.
Shocking announcement from Congresswoman Green. What went through your mind when you first heard she was going to resign on January 5th?
You know what? Honestly, I was like, you've got to be kidding me. You're on the other side of the president for 1 week and you can't take the heat. Imagine what it is to sit in my shoes, to not only be on the opposite side of him, but to have people like her who are constantly fanning the flames of hate. And imagine what those threats look like when you literally are someone like me. But at the end of the day, I know that I serve the people of Texas 30. And so my job isn't to be there and necessarily do whatever is going to make the president not be on my back, but instead is to focus on making sure that I can push forward with policies that are positive for Texas 30.
Right. Jasmine Crockett, wildly unimpressed, of course, with Marjorie Taylor Greene's announcement. All right, so more fallout over the threats from Genghis Khan man to Democratic electeds. He's threatened to execute them. They've received tremendous amount of threats. They shared those threats, the voicemails, and so on. Anyway, CBS News Face the Nation had Congressman Jason Crow on. He is a veteran who is one that took part in this video. And she does here in this clip is she shares Republicans who are criticizing Jason Crow and his colleagues who made this video, and it's worth the whole context of it because his response to that video is pretty good. Here it is.
Let's get to the content of what you had in that video you released, because there are also 15 House Republicans who are also veterans who released a video, including a retired 3-star Marine Corps General, Jack Bergman. Take a listen to this.
Troops, listen up. Any service member who refuses a lawful order is subject to court-martial for violating the Uniform Code of Military Justice.
We study what's lawful and what's not lawful, and the Democrats stunt insinuating that they're illegal or unconstitutional orders. It's downright dangerous.
It is corrosive. It is meant to weaken our country and weaken the military.
How do you respond to these allegations from your colleagues, fellow veterans, that what you have put out there is weakening and corrosive to the military?
Well, these unfortunately are some of Trump's core supporters that are rallying behind the president, and they know better. They know exactly the difference between lawful versus unlawful. We were very clear in the video that what we're talking about is unlawful orders. You have the president's spokesperson going into a press conference this past week and saying that we called for people to disobey lawful orders. They're simply lying because the truth is unacceptable to them. It's unacceptable. We wanted to start a conversation, and we did, about the dangerous rhetoric this president is using and the threats that he's made to use our military in an unlawful way.
Specifically what?
Well, send troops into Chicago, send troops into polling stations, kill terrorists' families, arrest and execute members of Congress, shoot peaceful protesters in Lafayette Square. Need I go on? He has a history of doing this. And if we wait until the moment that he gives a manifestly unlawful order to a young soldier, then we have failed them. We have to start that conversation now and get people thinking about the distinction, which is exactly what we did.
All right, there you go, Jason Crow handling it. And now let's go to another veteran. This is Congressman Alex Vindman. He's standing next to Jamal Khashoggi's widow, along with others, at a press conference, demanding the release of the transcript of a call from the first administration when Jabba the Pizza Hut had made a phone call to MBS, and he is saying it was the most outrageous thing in the world, and the public deserves to see the transcript of the call. Here he is. He's not great at talking, even when reading a script, but the points he's making are really important as he's standing next to Jamal Khashoggi's widow.
Given President Trump's disturbing and counterfactual defense of Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, this week I felt compelled to speak up on behalf of the Khashoggi family and the country that I serve. This is why I took to the House floor to bring to light a call I reviewed during my tenure on Trump's White House national security staff. Out of all the calls with foreign leaders that I reviewed, 2 stood out as the most concerning. The first is well known, the call with President Zelensky that led to Trump's first impeachment. The second is a call between Mr. Trump and Mohammed bin Salman after the brutal murder of Washington Post journalist and a Virginia resident, Jamal Khashoggi. The Khashoggi family and the American people deserve to know what was said on that call. As I've said on the floor and in the past, if the past is any indication, the receipts will raise serious questions, and they will be shocking. All week, I've urged the president to release a transcript. Yesterday, I sent him a letter with 37 of my colleagues demanding the release of the transcript. I'm honored to have Ms. Khashoggi with me today, standing by my side as we remember her husband and call for transparency and accountability. We will continue pressing for the release of the transcript so the American people understand the truth. Our intelligence agencies concluded that Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman ordered the murder of Ms. Khashoggi's husband. When a president sidelines his own intelligence community to shield a foreign leader, America's credibility is at stake. The Khashoggi family and the public deserve to hear the truth. We need straight answers about this conversation. We need the transcript. Once again, I'm calling on the president to release the transcript of this call.
Well, there you go. Yeah. Do you think we'll ever get the transcript of that call? I don't know, but I'm glad they're asking for it because that would be another giant story, it would sound like. All right, now let's move on to, I thought this was interesting, from CNN's Michael Smerconish show. This is a political science professor from Johns Hopkins named Professor Robert Lieberman, and he's explaining the idea of democratic socialism, which, of course, Zohran Mamdani and many others have made pretty popular right now. I thought it was interesting and a good explanation and worth sharing. Here it is.
Okay, and therefore, what is democratic socialism, or as they say in Europe and Scandinavia, social democracy?
So democratic socialism puts the emphasis on that first word, democratic. Socialist regimes, the Soviet Union, China, Cuba, tend to believe that in order to achieve workers' control of the economy and the sort of planned economy, that anything is fair game, any means of gaining power. Democratic socialists or social democrats tend to be committed first and foremost to democracy, but they're people who worry about whether, the compatibility of capitalism and democracy, or whether inequality or extreme economic inequality kind of degrades democratic regimes. So that's the people who call themselves democratic socialists are committed to democracy but worry a lot about inequality.
Aren't we a wee bit there? We have collective defense, we have police, we have Medicare, we have Social Security. I could go on and on and on. Aren't we already a bit socialist?
I think we have programs in which the government helps to manage the impact of capitalist economies, the impact of industrial economies, tries to mitigate inequality. But what politicians like Mamdani or Bernie Sanders or AOC worry about is that inequality has grown and has gotten very extreme. This is certainly was the theme of Mamdani's campaign for mayor of New York. And the affordability agenda is a way of addressing that kind of extreme inequality and saying, look, the government is doing a lot, but that there's more that the government can do to help assuage some of the extreme inequality that's crept into our economy.
There you go. I thought that was interesting. I also thought this was interesting from ABC's This Week. This is Senator Alyssa Slotkin talking, well, I think it's pretty self-explanatory. Doesn't need much setup. Here we go.
I would argue that one of the things that he's been doing by repeating it and talking about it is trying to distract us from the big stories of last week, which were the Epstein files and then the economy. And I took note yesterday at 9 o'clock at night. He's tweeting that there's no inflation, the economy is the best it's ever been. It was kind of amazing considering that the American public isn't stupid. It actually reminded me of Joe Biden, right? Joe Biden tried to tell us for a year that the economy was great. Now this president, who ran on lowering costs for Americans.
But you changed the subject with that video as well.
Sure.
Okay, now let's head over to NBC News. This is Meet the Press. This is the Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent. He's terrible. He's just so bad. And here he is, Kirsten Welker on Meet the Press.
J.D. Vance asked people to have, quote, a little bit of patience with the administration. Let me ask you, Mr. Secretary, how long do Americans need to be patient? How long do they have to wait for the cost of living to come down?
Well, Kristen, in March of 2024, I wrote a piece and I talked about the 3 I's that were killing Americans: immigration, interest rates, and inflation. Presidents closed the border and the mass immigration is gone. And that was a lot of the immigration was putting upward pressure on housing, downward pressure on wages. interest rates are down, and now we are starting to see the affordability. The prices get better. We had a very big October for home sales. Energy prices, gasoline is down. We saw, we believe healthcare is going to come down. We will see an announcement this coming week on that. And so across the board, prices are starting to come down. We're having Thanksgiving week. This will be the lowest cost for a Thanksgiving dinner in 4 years. Turkey prices are down 16%.
Okay. Oh, wow. Then I guess we're fine. Everything's fine, everybody. Nothing to see here. Oh, wait, there's one more little part of that interview worth listening.
Kristen, I can tell you that the Council on Economic Advisors has a study. You know the best way to bring your inflation rate down? Move from a blue state to a red state. Blue state inflation is 0.5% higher, and that is because they don't deregulate, they keep prices up, energy is higher.
Just according to the consumer prices, inflation was at 2.3% back in April. In September, 3%. But let me ask you about tariffs.
All right, when someone says that you need to just move, they've lost the entire plot. That is such an insulting thing to say. It takes into consideration absolutely nothing about a person's life. I don't think any economics, I don't know much, but I'm pretty sure that is not a solution that anybody should ever be offering. Which you could just move. Why don't you just move? You know, shouldn't be too much of a big deal. And it's not very expensive to move either. So, you know, speaking of cabinet secretaries who are Looney Tunes, RFK Jr. is the worst of them. I think it's fair to say. Here is CNN's Jake Tapper asking a Republican senator, Bill Cassidy, who was the deciding vote, the guy who convinced other Republicans that RFK would be okay. And Tapper did a pretty good interview, I think, with him over the weekend.
You were the deciding vote that allowed RFK Jr. to ascend to the role of health secretary. Here is how you explained that vote on the Senate floor.
It confirmed he will maintain the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention's Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices recommendations without changes. CDC will not remove statements on their website pointing out that vaccines do not cause autism.
So you just said that you've never met anybody other than pediatricians who read the CDC website, but back then you were talking about the importance of the CDC website. Watching this, did you give RFK Jr. too much credit? What are you going to do now to push back against this?
Well, first, I'm not minimizing these changes. They are important because you need to send the consistent signal that vaccines are safe. I'll just say that. And again, President Trump agrees that vaccines are safe and important, and that should not be undermined. If you, as we both know, there's an asterisk associated with that change on the website. The asterisk reflects a conversation he and I had, but I'll leave it at that. The fact is, the scientific community agrees that vaccines are safe. Talk to your physician. Keep your family safe. Don't be misled. And don't let your child be one of those who dies who wouldn't have died had your child been vaccinated. That's all I can say. Speaking as a physician, as a parent and a grandparent, there are things more important than ideology. There's things that are important as your child's health. Get your child vaccinated.
Now, somehow that's not the message that people are getting. I saw the mother of one of my daughter's friends posting on Facebook all kinds of anti-vax nonsense, which I had no idea that she had those thoughts. Don't know her that well, but still, you know, she's a hairdresser, so she knows a lot more than a pediatrician. She was very, very grateful that the CDC announced on their website that finally the government is doing the right thing. Unbelievable, really dangerous, but there's more.
Jake, I know it's titillating, but I think we need to move beyond the titillation into actually what matters to the American people.
I'm going to turn to your health care plan because I know you really want to talk about it, but I'll just say, this isn't about titillation. This is about the fact that you are the chairman of the health committee and you voted to confirm somebody that, by all accounts from the medical and scientific community and his own family, including his dying cousin, this health secretary is actually making America less healthy when it comes to vaccines and studies. But let's turn to your new health care plan because
Yeah, okay. I'm sure it was really great, the healthcare plan. I don't know how I missed that. All right, now let's listen to Zohran Mamdani on Meet the Press with Kirsten Welker. The whole interview is worth watching. It really is. The guy is just so damn good. Sorry to be on the train, but it's hard not to be. Here it is.
You think that democratic socialists can win across the country in battleground states, for example?
I think a focus on the importance of dignity for working people is something that appeals to people across this country. I will not venture into the world of national politics and punditry, but what I will tell you is that in New York City, we saw so many of the same dynamics we'd seen elsewhere. We'd seen a shift towards the right. We'd seen obituaries being written about the Democratic Party's ability to speak to young people, to speak to Asian voters, speak especially to young men. And I actually shared this with the president, that the very constituencies that he had won over, that were a critical part of his increased vote share in New York City, were the ones that we then looked at as who we should focus on to bring back into the party. And I think that when you speak to those constituencies with the same respect you'd speak to any other, you will see that they will then engage in the process. We saw an increase in voter turnout amongst 18 to 29-year-olds by more than 300%. And that's because we spoke to them as New Yorkers who are facing an affordability crisis, not as young people we have to finger wag to participate in democracy.
Former President Obama called you after your victory, and he offered to be a sounding board for you as you take on this role of mayor of New York City. What advice did he give you about how to lead effectively in these years ahead?
You know, one thing I really appreciated about the conversations I've had with the president have been the importance of what it looks like, not only to inspire hope, but to sustain it and then to deliver on it. And time again, that comes back to the city hall that you're putting together. And even right now, we have about 40-odd days of a transition. Transitions are typically a time of pageantry and pomp. We want it to be a time of substance, a time of purpose. And so we ensured that the first day after the election, we announced our 4 incredible co-chairs of our transition, our executive director. And then the week after that, the first deputy mayor, the chief of staff. We're moving much faster than typical because we want January 1st to be a day where we start to deliver, not start to prepare. And I appreciate President Obama's emphasis of what it looks like to prepare in advance so that you can deliver.
Damn. He's good. The whole interview is real good. And I just wanted to share this with you. Normally, I don't pay too much attention to polling. I don't even know if there's going to be a free and fair election, midterms, much less the next presidential election. But Trump's numbers are so bad that I thought I would play this from Harry Enton on CNN, who also annoys the shit out of me. Like, he tries to make this stuff interesting by performing and delivering it, and he misses me with it. Nonetheless, here are the numbers.
That standing has been slipping over the last couple of weeks. How much? CNN chief data analyst Harry Enton is here on this special Friday. It's been a tough few days for the president in the polls.
Yeah, John Berman. I would say this is probably the worst 10-day period for the president in the polls his entire second term. The numbers are just atrocious. What are we talking about here in terms of net approval rating? Well, take a look. These are all November polls. The best one of the group puts him at 14 points underwater. That's the Marquette University Law School poll, tied for the worst he's ever had in that poll. Fox, 17 points underwater. Maris, 17 points underwater. The Reuters Ipsos poll, 22 points underwater. And then taking the cake, the AP North poll, 26 points underwater. When your best poll has you still 14 points underwater, you know it's truly bad, and it's as bad as 26 points underwater. We're talking about an average well underwater with the deep blue sea, swimming with the fishes.
And now this is all parties here. If you think this is bad, Harry.
If you think this is bad, what is driving these horrific numbers for Donald Trump? Well, why don't we take a look at independents, Trump's net approval rating with independents. Back in January, he was close to even. He was at -4 points. Not great, but not terrible. Look at this number. 43 points underwater with independents in the most recent average of these polls. When you have 43 points underwater with independents, you know you're doing terribly. You can't win with this. If this holds for next year's midterm election, wave adios, amigos. Goodbye. See you later to that House Republican majority and that Senate Republican majority very much in danger as well. When you take a look at the Pew Research validated voter survey going back to last year, he was basically even among independents with Kamala Harris. Now he is 43 points underwater.
All right, there you go. That's it. That's all I've got. And, yeah, doesn't look good, at least polling-wise for the Ayatollah Khomeini. But we'll see how this week goes. Yeah, it's Thanksgiving week. So those are the clips. That's the shit show I've got for you. Now it's time to get to my guest, Dr. Rob Davidson. And after that, coming up, I've got my conversation with Dean Obeidallah and Lizz Winstead. Liz and I were guests on Dean's show on Friday night. It aired, and so I tagged it on today because I thought it was really fun, great conversation. But now I'm going to start with Rob Davidson. Rob is an ER physician and the executive director of the Committee to Protect Healthcare. You should go subscribe to his Substack. It's pagingamerica.org. Go to pagingamerica.org right now and subscribe. Over 64,000 subscribers. They're doing great over there. And Rob's a real smart guy. I'm always happy to have him joining me. We had a great conversation about a wide range of subjects. You can watch it on YouTube and Substack and my channels at Stand Up with Pete. Go like and subscribe there, please. Let's do it right now. We had Dr. Rob Davidson. The CDC changed guidance on their website, which creates, at least sows a lot of doubt for a connection specifically between autism and vaccines. I don't have it right in front of me. You obviously know what I'm talking about, but the outrage I heard from physicians yesterday when that was announced or found out that I guess they did that quietly. What do you want to say?
Yeah, I mean, it's one thing when Trump's up there spouting ridiculousness. I mean, this is the guy who talked about bringing light into the body and injecting bleach during COVID. So we expect that, right? We even expect it from RK Jr. because the worm is likely driving the ship there. But when the official website of the CDC now tells us that there's no evidence to say that autism is not caused by vaccines, and they're doing further research when there's been research. There's been so much research. There's been decades and decades of research, and there has not been a causal link ever found between vaccines and autism. And so it does a few things, right? It scares some parents away from getting their kids vaccinated. So now they're going to be at risk of getting deadly meningitis, right? Polio could make a comeback. I mean, we've seen measles outbreaks, right? Kids getting sick with measles. And the other thing it does is it takes parents who did the right thing to protect their kids from deadly illness, who ended up being diagnosed with autism or somewhere on the spectrum. And it creates such a sense of guilt in people that isn't founded, right? It's not real. It shouldn't happen. But these people feel like I did something wrong, just like Tylenol, like all the other crap they spew. There's not a bunch of innocent bystanders. There's real people getting hurt by this on both sides.
On all sides. And humanity. I mean, the country. I mean,
yeah. Well, no, I mean, on both sides, like before you get vaccinated, or the people who decided to get their kids vaccinated and now are struggling. Like, why did I do that? Did I do the wrong thing? Did I do something wrong? I mean, I see that all the time. You know, women who have miscarriages, or people who have, just untoward outcomes, things that happen. And did I do something? Did I cause this? And it's like, of course you didn't cause this, right? You didn't do this. And this guy's trying to make people think they did and trying to scare people away from doing what we know is right. It's sad. You're right. People are enraged. People are pissed off. I don't know. It gives me fuel to the fire to get these guys out of there because they're wrecking things for us all.
Yeah, which is why I'm always glad to have you here and that you're constantly speaking out. And everybody should go support the Committee to Protect Healthcare and follow Rob on Substack if you're watching there or wherever you're watching live. You should follow him because he is not just – I keep talking about how we know where people's credibility lies. How are we know who are we supposed to trust? I like to think I've built a career out of getting credible guests who have great reputations on the show to learn from. That's the whole premise of my show, which is why you're here. And the credibility you got from me happened in about 2 minutes when I watched you confronting Mike Pence in a diner in, was it Indiana or Michigan when he was, I think, campaigning for president. That clip went viral. Yeah. So if anybody wants to know more about Rob, go Google that video, and maybe I'll just share it here at the end or something because it's always worth it. But getting back to just trust in the healthcare system is a real and fair issue. Let's though talk about trust with physicians for just a moment before we get on to the latest debacle happening in healthcare. But so often I've heard everybody from my father to anybody else complaining about doctors in the worst kinds of ways. If it wasn't for that doctor, my mother would still be alive. That doctor prescribed this. That doctor botched the surgery. It's so easy to be critical of physicians specifically. And then it comes to asking for their advice on treatments. One of the issues that people have that I want you to address is They don't trust doctors because they think doctors are making some money on the back end or throughout the system some way. Obviously, a lot of physicians make a lot of money, but my pediatrician friends really hate RFK because not only is he misinforming the public about actual proven treatments, he's also saying scapegoating pediatricians who don't make a lot of money and saying that they make a lot of money off of the vaccines as well as off of any other drug that they apparently get the back end on. How do you want to answer that question about physicians, trust in physicians, and how we should find it, how we should rate it?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you look at the data out there and you just talk to people anecdotally, people do trust their physicians, right? And overall, physicians are trusted voices when we're talking about issues around healthcare, around public health. I think the idea, and I heard this during the pandemic, right, for people who are anti-vax, anti-COVID vaccines, and you see it now when, boy, anytime you get anything on X, particularly X, that goes maybe a little viral, that you're criticizing RFK Jr. on things he said. You get all the trolls coming out and accusing you of being a pharma shill. I mean, I've been told that so many times, how much money I'm getting. We don't get a dime from getting people vaccinated, right? Like in the doctor's office, it happens in your visit, right? That's part of, I don't know what a pediatrician makes for a routine well child visit. They're not getting rich off of that. Pediatricians, again, they do fine. I will never sit and cry and moan about the amount of money doctors make. Doctors do fine. That's not what any of us are out there gunning for. Some of them might be. Those seem to be the folks out there pushing for, getting rid of kind of the public parts of insurance, Medicare, Medicaid, and just having everyone pay cash. And I don't align myself with that crowd at all. I think the vast majority of people I know that went into this job, put in 8 years of school, 3 to 5 years of residency, kind of take on loans. My wife has a new partner, just started with her in primary care, has a $500,000 loan starting out her career. Right. And she loves what she does. Like she's not whining about it or anything like that. But, when we get told like we're getting these money kickbacks, I was told I got $17,000 to diagnose COVID on a COVID patient. And I mean, those COVID shifts, man, when it was hitting hard, it was some of the most stressful, truly depressing stuff any of us have ever seen. Some of the sickest people we've ever seen. Some people we just couldn't get back, couldn't save because that virus just like wreaked havoc on them. And like you go home, you can't sleep at night, right? You think about these folks. Like you said with your dad, and I don't know if that was a true story or anecdote, but like things happen. Yeah,
I don't think my dad would be shy and telling you about his view on doctors that took care of him or his mom or his dad too. Yeah.
I mean, things happen, right? Like sure. Doctors are also human, right? And either mistakes or just like bad outcomes when you're dealing with very complex diseases and very sick people. Sometimes, bad things happen. But like I will tell you, I know, I mean, for myself, for the person I've been married to for 30 some years, who's a doc, when something bad does happen, like you carry that with you, man. I was just walking through a hospital I worked in for 20 some odd years, and I walked by even through the old emergency department, a room that I remember a patient in particular from about 15 years ago, and it was a bad outcome, and it was just stays with you forever, I would assume. And so I just want people to understand, like, I know the vast majority of docs out there are doing our best. We're using the data, the evidence that we know, that we have, that we previously trusted the CDC to bring us. And to see that the kind of a slap in the face of them putting up this absolute garbage about vaccines and autism and like just undermining the work we're doing. It's a guy like Kennedy, like sowing that distrust with doctors, somehow saying pediatricians are out there getting money, getting kickbacks. I mean, that in addition to hurting patients, that's another layer of reasons why so many of us are pissed off at this guy.
In addition to that, obviously every day it's what's the conversation like? I mean, are there divisions amongst physicians and healthcare experts about all kinds of things from treatment to, but I mean, about these big, larger arc stories, certainly when it comes to insurance, which we can get to. Are there a lot of like arguments at this point in time about RFK and what HHS is doing?
I tell you what, like amongst the people that I see, the docs that I see, the hospitals I've met to, the surgeons, the OBGYNs, my fellow ER docs, fellow primary care docs that I talk to, like we talk about this stuff. I've not found a single person that says, boy, that RK, he's doing a hell of a job. Right. So I believe, like, I see him online, I see him on Twitter, I see Simone Gold and America's Frontline Doctors. Please do not go search that. It is scary and you don't want to see it, but I'm on their email list because I do want to see what they're talking about. And it's like, this is a lady who got arrested on January 6th, spent a month in jail because she went into the Capitol on January 6th. And she's a doc who lost her license and is out there pushing online pharmacies selling hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin that don't work for COVID, right? And pushing anti-vax conspiracies and supporting RFK Jr. So, like, they are out there. I just don't know that they're, like, real doctors doing real medicine that we should be kind of thinking about or talking to. I certainly don't think what they're talking about is appropriate, and I don't think we should trust them. None of the docs that I see in the real world, just taking care of people in my community, have any controversy about RFK Jr. He is bad for medicine, bad for patients, bad for this country.
There's a whole world of doctor influencers that are also grifters, right? Like,
wow, it's always that. It always comes down to somebody has a online telehealth thing where they'll let you log on for $80, right? And then they'll route you to the online pharmacy where you get your ivermectin for $100. I mean, there's always that. It's really troubling, right?
Do you know if anybody? I'm sure that some journalist or other has done some kind of deep dive on exposing those types of people that can give us a better understanding so that we can spot them, and if it's not hard for us to share with our friends and neighbors and family members, because it wouldn't seem to be a hard endeavor to make if you're a ProPublica or even the New York Times or something.
Yeah, it's out there. Like, the data's out there. I mean, there's lots of information on Casey Means, who's the doc who quit her residency, and now they want her to be the Surgeon General. She's made, I think 2 years ago, she made $24 million off of wearable blood sugar monitors for for non-diabetics, right? If you're a diabetic, yes, check your blood sugar, take your medicine. If you're not a diabetic, like, eat a healthy diet and go see your doctor once a year and get your sugar checked, and you're fine. And they're making millions off this stuff. Wellness, the wellness community. It's really sad because we all want wellness. We all want people to get outside, touch grass, walk around the block, eat healthy food. And we can all get in line with that. We don't want people buying $23 million worth of things they don't need from a grifter.
It's one thing to buy something you don't need. It's another thing to buy something you don't need that's actually dangerous or damaging. We've seen that throughout human history. We've seen grifters selling those types of magic bullets and so on. But give me one real quick, and when we'll get into the healthcare issue, that you think is just nonsense. I don't know. I see all these things that, especially the things that are, I was going to say they're sold like to a lot of the Navy SEAL type guys, selling them to men, and this makes you more alpha and stuff. But women are just as much out there selling all kinds of crazy shit that they say gives them that body or that skin or that hair, whatever it might be. What do you like to make fun of, or what do you like? How about this? Do you have any thoughts on the ice plunge? Those ice plunges? I don't need to do those, do I? Do I need to do that? Somebody just told me.
I don't think you need to do them, but I've done one. Right?
You did one? Did it change your life?
Thing.
Did you quit smoking or something?
No, it wakes you up. No, I quit smoking in 8th grade after I smoked one pack of cigarettes in a week. That was it. That was
Jesus. It. You're a monster, by the way. What kind of a binge? Dr. Rob Davidson went on a 1 week nicotine binge in the 8th grade. Okay, so you pick one then. I just said ice plunge. I can see the benefits.
I will tell you the dangerous one, and it isn't a product. Well, it is. It was Dr. Oz before he became the head of CMS, right? Mm-hmm. Running Medicare, Medicaid. He was pushing Medicare Advantage plans, privatized Medicare insurance plan, making money off of selling those plans, pushing them on his show. And now he's the guy supposedly in charge of Medicare, Medicaid, and kind of guarding the public trust, right? Those funds we feed into to protect poor people, to protect elderly people. Like a grift, and then the grifter, I guess the fox guarding the hen house is kind of a classic example.
Let's talk about the proposal right now for replacing the Affordable Care Act subsidies, I guess specifically is what they're talking about. Yeah. And it does seem like no matter what we have tried to do and accomplish to reform healthcare in America, we haven't really gotten to the root of the problem, which my understanding is the cost of care, the overall cost of care. It's not just the insurance companies or the pharmaceutical companies or even the private public partnerships that our government creates. And you can look at this at other countries, is my understanding. I had a long conversation with my friend Dr. Aaron Carroll about this the other day, and he was really, of course, focused on the costs of care. We're talking healthcare. You're talking access. Access Can you get health care? Quality, is it any good? And of course, cost or affordability. Those are the three legs of the stool, I'm told. That's what I'm told. But what is being proposed right now by Republicans, they never have any good ideas, just a lot of red herrings, it would seem, in my opinion, but is to replace the Affordable Care Act subsidies. And the way that Gasolini is proposing it himself is, I'm going to get rid of the insurance companies who are just taking your money. We're going to give you money, and then you can send it to the insurance company you want. And I'm like, hold on, that's Obamacare. That's what it is. It's subsidies that give you insurance, that give you money to then go on a market that they created to buy insurance. It's almost like he's suggesting we replace Obamacare with Obamacare. You're still the insurance companies. So I'm kind of confused on what they're even floating to replace these subsidies with. Explain it to me.
I mean, he said in 2017, who knew healthcare could be so complicated? So I honestly think he doesn't understand how the subsidies work. So, I mean, what we're talking about right now is in less than 6 weeks, you're going to have millions of Americans fall off a cliff of affordability and not be able to buy insurance because they get tax credits that help subsidize them buying insurance. And if they don't get that, their insurance is going to go up double, triple in some cases. And people are just going to not do it. So they're going to be out of insurance. We'll be back to the wild, wild west of the old days. So Trump was just saying, well, let's take that money. Let's not give you insurance. We'll give it to people. They can buy their insurance. You're right. You just made the person a conduit to give the money to the same insurance per the Trump plan, which doesn't really make sense. Now, Republicans in the Senate and in Congress, primarily Senator Cassidy down in Louisiana, who's a doctor, Senator Rick Scott, the guy who defrauded Medicaid and Medicare when he ran a hospital system down in Florida. Huge fraudster. Ron Johnson's been talking about this. Mike Johnson's been talking about it. They're saying this is a dream of theirs for years. Like, get rid of those subsidies. Just give people the money, stick it in a health savings account. It's basically a healthcare IRA. You give it to people. Now you can go and just buy the healthcare you need. You know, the problem is if you don't have insurance and you are having chest pain, I mean, are you like just dialing through the yellow pages? You're dialing through, going on Google, cheapest place for a heart attack, right? Or you're having appendicitis, cheapest place for an appendectomy. And am I going to drive 2 hours? I might die, but boy, it'll be a third the price.
Healthcare as a market, it's just people don't. It's not a market. It's not like you're going to buy sneakers or bread. You don't. It's healthcare.
Well, even things you can, like my wife needed an MRI and she had some time, right? It was going to be in the next few weeks or so. I spent 2 hours on our computer going through the portal of our insurance company, finding the distance versus price and rebates and all that to find the place she could get an MRI of her back. That was the best deal for us. And like, I've been a doctor for almost 30 years, right? She is the same thing. And like navigating that was complex. Like if someone working multiple jobs, taking care of their kids, my kids are grown. Like we don't have to make lunches for my kids for school. When you're doing all those things, then now you're expected to go on and spend several hours and you need an advanced degree and like some big algorithm to figure out where the hell to get your MRI. Like it's not reality. These guys don't get it. They don't get it. And they get health care, right? We pay for their health care.
Oh, well, yeah. It's one thing to try to find a physician or get a test or treatment like that. You're talking, oh, by the way, without revealing it, do you think your wife knew why she needed an MRI? Because Trump said he didn't know why he needed an MRI. My understanding is, by the way, I've never had an MRI, but most people I know have. And my understanding is when you have to get an MRI and you're not quite sure what's there, it's because they're not quite sure what's going on. So like the 2 weeks or however long you wait before it's prescribed, you have to get an MRI, and the time is fucking real angst ridden because you're totally worried about a tumor. So the only thing you're thinking about is that MRI. So when you're asked, do you know what that MRI was for? And you say, I don't know. That would have to be I think that's a lie.
I think that's a problem. I've tried not to opine on the health conditions of our president, but that seems concerning, right? Either genuinely you don't know or you do know and you don't want us to know. Either way, that's a real concerning spot for us to be in with him in charge.
The point, though, is it's tough to navigate to find a treatment, much less a doctor, but it's also tough to navigate even if you're on the individual market and you're getting your insurance that way. I remember my ex-wife when she first signed us up for the exchanges when we were both first independent contractors, she said, I started crying, and this is a woman that doesn't get too emotional like that. And she goes, and I started thinking about what if you didn't speak English? Like, she's like, I have a master's degree. And this was really hard to navigate this. And there's all kinds of different organizations that try to help you do that now. But still, it's a real tough thing to navigate no matter who you are. It's like parking in New York City. How can we possibly understand these regulations? There's signs all the way down to Post. I don't know if I could park here or not. Okay, sorry. Just one of my picadillos. So what's being proposed by Republicans is what? Nothing?
Well, it depends, right? Some amount of cash, we don't know what that is, that they want to give to people because suddenly Republicans are concerned about all the profits insurance companies are making. Never mind the executives of these insurance companies making $20, $30 million a year just got a big tax cut from these guys, right? Never mind, they protect these insurance companies. They take money from the insurance companies every single election cycle and then do their bidding. Somehow, all of a sudden now, with 6 weeks left before they fall off the millions of Americans fall off this cliff and lose their health insurance, that's what they're all crying about. I agree. Like they make way too much profit. Yes, let's fix it. The problem is we got 6 weeks, right? People are facing a crisis. We need to just throw the people a lifeline, give them a year or 2 years, some kind of extension so they can afford the insurance. And then, yes, Republicans, Democrats, get together and figure it out. The Affordable Care Act was a step, right, toward getting universal health care. It was not the end. No one proposed that it was. Now, it was better when it was passed than it is now because of Republicans. And I hate to be ultra partisan, but it is true. They got rid of the individual mandate so that younger, healthier people can just opt out. The problem is with insurance, you have to pool everyone together. When all the young, healthy people just sort of bow out of the system, now you have a bigger group of people that are sicker, that cost more money, the insurance rates go up.
There's a name for that when it happens, if I'm not mistaken. It's called
the risk pools. Yeah.
Well, the risk pools are what we're talking about, how insurance rates it, but there's something called a death spiral for rates, meaning that the older, sicker people are on, the younger, healthier people are off. That creates they call a death spiral in terms of the rates just go skyrocketing. And so for the guy watching us on YouTube that calls us two liberal retards talking about this, I highly recommend that you look into how these things work. It's really not liberal and conservative. In a lot of ways, it's actually just economics, if you want to talk about it that way, when it comes to insurance, which is why, specifically when it comes to insurance, which is why Medicare exists. Really, which is supposed to take the older, sicker people. Obviously, I can't even imagine America without Medicare, by the way.
Yeah, not that long ago.
So also the same guy or woman, I don't know, it says the Affordable Care Act increased the price of the insurance to every single one of my family members by at least 100%. No, nonsense. Don't believe it. First of all, just to say, I don't believe it, but let's take him at his word. What would it have been without Affordable Care Act? I think people forget that too. Oh, the war on poverty didn't work. Really? Without the war on poverty, do you know how much more poor we'd be, et cetera? Thoughts?
Yeah, it's and that's hard, right? It's hard to put on a bumper sticker, hard to put on a sign you carry around. Obamacare, we decrease the rate of increase of insurance, but that is true, right? Insurance is increasing at a certain amount.
Yep.
And with it, I mean, and I was just listening to a podcast where people were involved in that rollout, and they used to talk about the term bending the cost curve, which means nothing to anybody, right? It's a gobbledygook statement, but it is a real thing, right? Like you take I'm doing like the rates are going up like this, and you do it like this. They're still going up, right? Again, I am not here to defend the current state of American healthcare, health insurance. I think is terrible. I mean, the unholy trinity of big hospitals that are increasingly owned by private equity, of big pharma and insurance companies, like those, that's healthcare. That's what's broken. And each one of those pieces needs to be fixed. And it's unserious for the Republicans, again, 6 weeks out to say, well, we know how to fix all this problem. We're just going to get rid of those subsidies, screw you, 4 million people, we'll give everyone a check, and then we'll just further this death spiral. They say it. They say the quiet part out loud that, they want to kill Obamacare. They just weren't able to do it by votes. They'll do it by the death spiral. But
the truth, I think that we both know, and if anybody, including our critic watching on YouTube, is thinking about it, the truth is they don't want to kill Obamacare. The truth is they know that if you give somebody something, in this case, affordable health insurance, including their constituents all over red state America, and then you take it away from them, you will not get reelected, which is why they haven't repealed and replaced Obamacare. There's a reason why the first term when Trump was in office in that nightmare that we thought had ended with Republican majorities, that they couldn't do it, do it. And that's the same reason now. So I ask you about the hospital situation. You are an ER doctor. You work in hospitals. And one of the issues that a lot of people are raising is that the cuts to Medicaid are going to close hospitals. Now, the ripple effect that has on a local economy is, I guess, not that important. The fact that people aren't going to have a hospital would seem to be pretty important. And AOC went on and made this video, and she said, I took a Republican colleague of mine aside and said, what about the hospitals that are going to close in your district? And he said, I don't believe it. I don't believe they will. Now, my question would be, I'm sure that those hospital administrators are talking to their congressmen, and I'm sure they have direct access because they're a huge employer and they're a fucking hospital, and they're saying, this is how we get paid. You're saying we can't get paid that way. That means we can't take care of people. No. So what is the truth about hospitals closing to Medicaid or any other of these types of cuts being proposed?
Yeah, I mean, with the big $1 trillion cuts in Medicaid, there's estimated hundreds. I don't remember how many hundreds, several hundred hospitals, particularly rural, mostly rural hospitals, are going to close. There's already a hospital, I believe in Curtis, Oklahoma, that announced several months ago, right after it passed, that they're going to be closing, and they cited it. Even though these cuts don't happen for a few years, they're like, yeah, we build our budgets out 5 years. Like we see that coming. We see that funding go down and we can't stay afloat. Or like you can't expand services in the thing. And you may not close the whole hospital. You may lose labor and delivery. So now if you're going to have a baby, you got to go an hour away. You may lose your outpatient lab. You may lose outpatient x-ray, right? The services, you may not get specialists that come there. So now people got to drive all over the place to get the care that they need. And eventually you lose the whole hospital. And like you said, that's the whole community. It's not just people on Medicaid that lose that hospital. It's people who get insurance through their work. It's people on Medicare. Hospital goes away for everyone. And the problem is it doesn't come back just because we get a new set of people in Washington who can refund things, who can reset it, who can help fix the broken system and get money back into these communities. Once the hospital leaves, those people will have to go somewhere else and find jobs, right? They're not just going to wait around for the political fortunes to change and then all of a sudden they'll have a job. That's like generational. I mean, I'm personally, again, where I work, the people I've served for 20 some odd years, like that's pretty terrifying to think those folks will have to go without.
Rob, I know our time is up, and I hate it. I love talking to you. I learn a lot from talking to you. Open mic here on the end. Anything else that you think is imminent that we haven't covered or discussed? I saw this ProPublica piece. I don't know if you saw this investigation about the effect of outlawing abortion in states like Texas and what that has actually meant for women who want to terminate their pregnancy. It's heartbreaking because, as predicted, women are dying. I don't know if you saw that. Do you have any thoughts about that or anything else?
Yeah, I mean, related to that, we were told when Dobbs' decision came out, when Roe v. Wade fell, that this was a good thing, right? You're going to let the states decide. Let the states decide. Like, personally, that is a terrible thing because it shouldn't depend on what state you live in that you have basic healthcare access, which abortion care, reproductive health care is. They're now going after the abortion pill everywhere. They're not just going after it in red states with red state legislatures. They're going after it federally. The FDA is reviewing it. RFK Jr. has said they're reviewing it. Marty McCreary, who's the FDA guy, he's reviewing it. It's pretty scary. I mean, I know as a group, our organization is making sure people understand this, that they're going after people's ability to have safe, completely, everything has some complications, but safe, proven safe for decades. They're trying to say there's something wrong with this pill, that it's dangerous. It's safer than Viagra, safer than aspirin when you look at the actual side effect profile of these drugs. And you've got guys like Josh Hawley in Missouri waving around fake studies saying it isn't safe. Again, just like that update on CDC about autism and vaccines, they don't really care about what actual data says. They care about their dogma and what they believe, and then they craft documents to fit what they believe and try to shove them down people's throats and call it science, call it data.
Yeah.
That's pretty scary, and that should be scary for everyone. I don't care who you vote for.
Yeah.
Pretty scary.
That's why it's important to talk to people like you. It's crazy. When they outlawed abortion, I account for the fact that it's not 1979, and that wasn't the only way to terminate a pregnancy a safe way. Of course, women, you know, the coat hangers, we all know the nightmarish stories, but now when they outlawed abortion, it wasn't going to be as bad, we thought, because of the pills that are available. And, you know, those are easy to get to people in these states that want to turn into Gilead. But you're saying, I didn't realize that there was such a overt lobbying attempt to get rid of the medications that are much safer and easier and accessible and affordable.
Yeah. Well, Pete, I'll tell for you and for people listening and watching, check out the last episode of Paging America. This week's episode just dropped, I think, yesterday and the day before. And I interviewed a political reporter she did some stuff on RFK and the political ramifications. It's interesting, but she's been doing a lot of reporting on mifepristone and the attacks on mifepristone. And so it was enlightening for me, things I didn't know. And you kind of keep an eye on that space because that is their plan, right? Their plan was never to let it be to the states. Their plan and their goal is to make abortion illegal.
Well, I will finish where
unavailable.
Promote Page in America, which everybody should go subscribe to right now, because obviously it's great for me to have Rob on and talk to him, but you can go direct to the source. Plus you can get to see him interviewing other experts in healthcare, which is super, super helpful and informative. You're doing very, very important work both in the ER and here, and it's a public service, what you're doing as well. And apparently in your marriage. Congratulations. That sounds very impressive.
All right. Most of it's on her. I'm just a bystander.
Well, with that attitude, I guess it keeps a healthy marriage. Thank you very much. Appreciate you as always, Rob. All right. There you go. Dr. Rob Davidson, pagingamerica.org. Go subscribe right now. Follow him on all the channels. All the links to Rob and all my guests are in the show notes. And now it's time to get to the Dean Obeidallah Show, or at least one segment from it on Friday night, where Liz Winstead and I were Dean's guests. We had a great, wide-ranging conversation, so I thought I would tag it onto today's show to give you a little bit more something to listen to, and hope you like it.
And welcome back to the Dean Obeidallah Show. It's Friday, November 21st, third hour on Friday. I'm contractually obligated to do this segment called What Just Happened? And look who's back, Liz Winstead and Pete Dominick, because there's clearly no variety in our booking abilities at this network. Liz Winstead, comedian, co-creator of The Daily Show, activist, a great friend of mine, creator of the Abortion Access Front, and host of the podcast Feminist Buzzkills. And it's always great to see you, Liz. Of course, I'm kidding. I'm so happy you're here.
So you're kidding? It's great to see me? Great.
It is great to see you.
Kicking it off terrifically, Dean. Thank you. Good to be here.
And look who else is here. Whenever I turn my Zoom on, he's here.
America's little brother.
Pete's in every episode of everything I do. I turn on Zoom and it's Pete Dominick, podcaster, stand-up comic, speaker, news commentator, dad, journalist, activist. This is all from his website. And host, of course, of Stand Up with Pete Dominick, which you should subscribe to. It's a great podcast. I've been on it. Honored to be on it many times in the past. Pete, good to see you.
Dean, it is always so great to see you. It's also great to see America's big sister and leader, and someone who I consider comedy royalty, as well as activist royalty, as well as someone that has always spurned my advances.
All right, you made advances? Dude, you got to get better game. I never recognized a single advance. Not that I wouldn't have spurned it, but...
It's good that you would have spurned it, just for clarity.
But I just didn't even recognize any of our interactions as advances.
Now, I've always kept it professional with Liz, but not today.
Hello, the gloves are off.
Let's talk to Pete. Let's make this a manosphere show where we just hang. Pete, so are you dating now? What's going on?
I'm not going to talk about my personal life post separation on your show, because I want to get the ratings.
Are you done legally, or there's still an entanglement?
We're just separated. We have a great relationship. It's actually, I probably should talk about it a lot more, because we definitely went through the whole barrel. We had all the ups and downs, and we're getting along very good.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
All right, good. Well, if it doesn't work out, of course, I am available for your.
She already said that she's been talking to you, so that's cool. I wish her the best.
She is a fan. Liz, she's been a longtime fan of me when I used to go on Pete's show.
That's right.
Sincerely, he would say this. Yep. So I'm very happy. I've got my hand. JD Van.
Horning in on somebody who is newly single.
He also, by the way, Liz,
very awkward way.
My mom says the same things about Dean, so he may date her. My dad would be upset, but
let's talk about the first topic. Much more comfortable, the Epstein files. Epstein files. So it went from Trump saying you're a loser, a weakling, a traitor if you're going to vote for it, and it's a hoax, to like everyone vote for it. Everybody, you're going to all vote for it, and I'm going to sign it right away. And what do you think really happened? And let me throw something out there. Do you think, Liz, I'll start with you. The election 2 weeks ago where Democrats trounced Republicans nationwide played a role in this? Or do you think just enough Republicans came to go like, we're going to vote for this, so it's going to be really embarrassing for you to continue to fight it?
I think they saw the reaction to, again, when politicians can't control the narrative, like the Epstein estate releasing emails, and the public was reacting profoundly. I think that the Republicans could no longer stay silent. And I think that Trump, in never wanting to lose, just does a gaslight where it's like, of course you should all sign it, but also give me enough time to redact what needs to come out of the actual Epstein files. And I think, the thing that's going to be very interesting to see in the wash is, because I'm somebody who just firmly believes that people who have been giving massive amounts of money to both parties, but mostly Republicans, are listed in the Epstein files. So I feel like the money train is about to be caught in a pedophilia ring that is not awesome.
Donors.
Pete, you were friends with Jeffrey Epstein. What can you share?
We were, and I'll tell you, I had
He was Jeffrey Epstein's little brother. Everybody.
Let me just say, I had no idea what was going on. We were mostly just golf buddies. Never went to the house. Did go to the island, but we just golfed.
Was your favorite hole the 14th?
Oh no!
I'll be here all week with terrible jokes about underage rape.
It's not like it was the 8th.
Exactly. Very big difference between the 8th hole
and the 6th hole would be even worse. I know what you're getting now. You guys are clever.
I think the question you asked had something to do with, the strategy and how Trump was all over the place. And I've been thinking about how to respond and how to think about this and how to ask guests on my show about this. And it's like, it's all been said. We all know exactly what's going on. So I just want to come back to one of the earliest points made and remind myself of it, I guess. This guy is real dumb. He's real dumb, and he's very impulsive. He doesn't plan things out. And people then say, well, how did he get elected? I would say because the electorate, I'll just be completely, I guess I'm over it, is dumber. The people who voted for him are dumber than he is. He's just a salesman. He says things to get things done and sold today. But anybody who ever buys any of his products or goes into business with him or votes for him or works for him, they all find out eventually just how dumb he is. This Epstein Files thing and the way he played it is the best evidence of the point I'm making, because he's never planning ahead more than a day. And he just goes wherever the wind takes and he tries to affect it. But a lot of it is just stupidity. And we find that out and we just never come to that conclusion, because you have to think, well, how is he planning it? He's just dumb.
He's just dumb.
And I think too, like, to your point, Pete, and this might sound like a real out there analogy, but have you all ever been like fooled by what you've been targeted by on social media, a product that you bought or something that you're smart and you're smarter than buying that product? And I think that the mentality that we have as humans, I think that understanding the kind of bill of goods you can sell somebody who has a need for something is very real. And that analogy to me, I can't tell you how many exercise videos I have saved in my Instagram that I'm never doing, or how many recipes I'm doing that I'm never cooking, or a thing I bought that I was positive was not a Chinese made product, that it was going to be trash, until I tried to return it. And Carla's jewelry turns out isn't made by Carla. It's made, and so I think when you look at how humans are predisposed to get fooled, dumb people and smart people both, I think, can get fooled by, if somebody presents you a shiny thing that you want.
The first time,
to be cash.
I fully agree with your analogy. and you're humanizing the people I call dumb. But I'm just going to argue again, the first time you buy that piece of shit and find out that it's shitty, you don't go back and buy it again. Like, I just don't.
True. Yeah, but I did join the Megyn Kelly fan club twice. Like, I thought the second time, the VIP membership to the club got inside access. I get to have a chat with her weekly. The first time was my bad, right? Her bad. Second time, Pete.
Yeah, no, I mean,
but sometimes I think, Pete, it's not just about Trump as much as it is about you might not buy that same product again, like first time. But is there somebody in the orbit that seems saying, oh, maybe that person's going to talk sense into him? Or whatever it is. So I feel like there's so many, like,
I think you listen to
made trinkets that he surrounds himself with that almost anybody could be fooled by his bullshit.
I think those
and the bullshit of his people.
I think those that's a perfect analysis. I think those trinkets would be their favorite right-wing talker. So what happens is, I just had this with someone recently, and they start telling you all of their arguments, and you debunk them and politely. It was a fine conversation. I was like, well, you know, but it was ridiculous what was being said. But then they go back to that source, that well. No matter what we try to do to reason with people, in this case, point out how stupid, how clearly it is that this guy was best friends with the worst pedophile ever. And that guy, the worst pedophile ever, said that Trump apparently was the most evil person he knew, which says a lot about who he is. So people fall for it because of whatever source they are listening to, that they come back to that person. And Mark Levin was one of the most effective, which is why I love this neo-Nazi, Nick Fuentes is taking him down, because they're all setting each other on fire. But this Epstein thing is the thing they were all led to. And I think a lot of them, including like that freaking MMA guy, like who's dumb as stones, but apparently a great fighter, is like, I got duped. Fuck that. This Epstein thing is where I draw the line.
But Pete, one thing that you just brought up here, the idea now all of a sudden on the right, they're like, what? There are neo-Nazis and people who like Nazis on our side? No one ever said that. We all knew this bullshit. Like, I don't know what lit this new fire, all this. Tucker Carlson had a conversation with Nick Fuentes. Could that be really the spark? They all knew what was in there.
I watched it.
Really it's just like they're Charlottesville, that we get endlessly lists where Nazis are there and out there and walking, and the Nazism and white supremacy within Christian national. It's like
they vote.
Yeah.
So they're not denouncing that. They're denouncing them, but not so harshly. They're not admitting what they believe. Those people vote for them. I call it this Fuentes split. I'm calling it like what's happening with MAGA right now. Hoods off, because
hoods off. I like that. That was like a Daily Show type of thing. Hoods up. Yeah, but look, when Laura Loomer is calling out the anti-hate, the hate of them, when Laura Loomer is the biggest trafficker of hate against Muslims and against anyone but Muslims for years and years and years, I'm like, you need a better messenger, because I can't have any sympathy for her. I can't have sympathy for the message. There should be no place for anti-Jewish hate. So that's different. But when this is so horrible. A part of me is like, I hope you enjoy the pain, but at the same time, I have too many friends who are Jewish who are great people that I don't want the anti-Semites to get more power. But they are going, that's the future is Nick Fuentes, not Mark Levin for the Republican Party. That's where it's going.
But
I mean, I don't know how these parties don't move back. The trajectory of a right-wing fascist party is either it destroys, it's gone, like the Nazi party's gone, Mussolini's party's gone, or they continue down this further and further extreme road.
I think part joke, part serious. Anti-Muslim hate is a lot more acceptable because of, 9/11, which forces me to crowbar in another topic I know you want to talk about, which is that our president invited the Saudi crown prince over. 9/11 families not too happy. Laura Loomer not too happy because they hate Muslims so much that he can't convince them that the Muslims are good or that we should be dealing with them or whatever. I know Liz loves the crown prince.
Because Zoran's there as well. So I'm on Donnie today, MBS. I'm there Saturday. I didn't announce this until now. Of course, I'm hanging out with.
That is a spectrum. You're having the crown prince, price chopper, and then you're having Zoran. And also it's the level of, again, going back and watching, and I've never been the biggest Hillary fan, but going back and watching that debate between Trump and Hillary, when he literally without taking a breath, berated her about how much money she took from the Saudis. How dare she? They are sexist. They hate women. Their policies are to start war. Blah, blah, blah. Will you give the money back? As though it was us saying to Hillary, and then to go cut it to, I've got a plane from Qatar and I've got all this shit and I don't care how much money we put into Yemen and what they do to the Yemenis and what they've done to the women.
Cut to Jared.
Cut to Jared.
That's what was the real
incompetent Jared.
The Saudis became real good friends to the Trump family when Jared got $2 billion from them. By the way, Dean, did you notice that Liz didn't really say anything negative about MBS? Clearly, she is angling for a spot on next year's Riyadh Comedy Fest. We saw it. We saw what you did.
Look, I mean,
you know what, Dean? Look. Why are we so hard on these guys that went to Riyadh? You know, they got to say whatever they were told to say, and they felt really good about that. I'm very proud.
I performed in Saudi years ago. I performed because I had produced a comedy festival in Jordan for 3 years, and I performed in Saudi. I opened for a beheading. Rough crowd. They weren't there to laugh, you know, and I did before. I performed with Russell Peters, with Gabriel Iglesias. In Saudi, and then once with Aaron Cater. I'm not sure if you guys know Aaron. I know
Aaron. Did you take that sweet Saudi government cash?
No, it wasn't from the government. It was a private show. That way, this is when Maz Jobrani. This was the early days.
Maz
when
was
it was
there,
innocent, and we were pioneers of comedy. Like, what is this comedy you speak of? You go on stage and people laugh. You're a witch, and they're like, no, it's comedy. And they're like, oh, okay. And then they're like, we can make money off this. And then the Saudi's like, yeah, we can. And across the Arab world, Dubai was like. At first, when we did our first shows in Dubai with Axis of Evil with me and Ahmed and we literally had to write our jokes out like a script and submit it in advance. Then after a few years later, they're like, we can make a lot of – this is a tourist attraction. They didn't care what comic, what their background was. Bring them in. They're a big name. They'll sell out a big venue in Dubai. It's good for the brand. So Saudi learned from Dubai and others in the Middle East. You can get people to come over and like you because you have the – Kevin Hart, for example.
By the way, you should still have to write out your jokes and submit them in advance.
It'd be the same jokes from 15 years ago. There's the same jokes. I'm like, I know. I got to write new material. By the way, you talk about Zoran and the spectrum. One of the most annoying things is I was on podcasts with people who are on my side. Like after the election when Zoran, they go, what's it like? You live in New York to go from 9/11 and the same city 9/11 happens to Zoran when like, what is the connection between Muslim Americans and 9/11? But they weren't being in a bad way. They were like my friend. They thought this was a good thing. I'm like, you got to detach the two. We had nothing to do with 9/11. Zoran had nothing to do with 9/11. American Muslims had nothing to do. This was a terrorist attack by people with a political agenda.
From where, Dean? From where?
Most of the hijackers are from Saudi. It was funded by Saudis.
Yeah.
And Bin Laden obviously involved in it. So, yeah, I mean, it's kind of funny how even good-natured people will frame something, and I'm not going to be the dick where I'm like, let me teach you the microaggression. I'm like, I know what you're saying.
What's kind of funny is that on 9/11, you had a work trip. You never tell people about that, though.
I had to go to Jersey to organize the rally where there was the I'm chatting with my friend
Liz Winstead. Rally?
What? The Liz Winstead
rally?
I stepped on that twice because I'm trying to keep my job. What did you say?
I said the Dancing in the Streets rally.
Exactly. That's it. Liz Winstead. Now cut to the footage. There's Dean. It looks just like him. That wasn't me. It was clearly a nightclub in like Lyndhurst, New Jersey. I was at like a week before wearing the same clothes, chatting with Liz Winstead and Pete Dominic. So let's talk about the fun things at Donald Trump this week. And, Trump calling for Democrats to be killed, to be hung. You would have thought that was a line that even some Republicans would have been like, that's not. Yeah, it's all these Carolyn Levitt literally said yesterday, they are literally saying to 1.3 million active duty servicemen to defy the chain of command. No, they are literally not saying that. They are literally saying only don't actually do illegal orders. But you have like John Thune, that the whole bullshit, like, well, that's not the words I would have chosen. I think it's slightly over the top. He's calling for hanging members of the Congress that you served with, like Mark Kelly and shit. This is insane. I mean, I don't want to get worked up because every hour we can get worked up about Trump, but this really crossed the line. We're into the world of advocating death of Democratic members of Congress for what they say.
Well, I mean, loving the noose since January 6th. It's like they haven't met a noose they don't love. In fact, it's incredibly, it is a line that you're just like, there is no bottom with these people. There is no bottom that you cannot say, wow, this is rhetoric that doesn't seem right. And also not only retweeting that, but also putting swastikas and nooses, taking them off the offensive list. So you can just parade them around, piggy, it's very Manson. There's a lot of Manson vibes happening right now. And I feel like, is he going to pardon, Squeaky Fromm, Patricia Krenwinkel? I don't know.
These whole thing, some great references.
It's a mess.
I have to Google.
Patricia Krenwinkel is one of my favorite Manson.
That's a hard one. Squeaky Fromm, I know, but
I think
so. What do you think, Pete?
I think that someone probably does have a list of how many people he's put on a list, how many targets he's put on people. I think it's very fair to say that he has made inferences and comments and posts that put all kinds of people in harm's way, and that he is rooting for them. I mean, that's hard to psychoanalyze, but he certainly wouldn't be upset. I mean, starting with, remember during the campaign when he said about Hillary Clinton, there should be a Second Amendment solution, or whatever that phrase was. Then there's just any number of other people, from union leaders to his critics to obviously senators, that he has said terrible things about. And then if you believe those things about them, that it wouldn't be morally wrong to hurt a person like that. He calls journalists terrible people. He calls people terrible people. So it's unsurprising that phony soprano continues to act like a mafia boss who puts a target or gives an order without giving the order. It is so dangerous, but I hopefully will lower the rhetoric soon.
Well, and I just want to say too, as your listeners know, and as I constantly tell people, I live in Minnesota half the year, and I'm going back tomorrow. Right. And my friends who hold public office there, who nary 5 months ago they were presented with an extremist who had a list of political figures and abortion advocates, and that person started killing people on the list, went down the list to their homes and started murdering them. And so many of those politicians and activists, it's real. It's not like hypothetical. This rhetoric is real. And in the movement that I spend so much of my time in, when you talk about George Tiller, or you talk about Dr. David Gunn, or you talk about Dr. Slepian, the extremists created a moral framework around executing these people because of what they did over and over again. Bill O'Reilly participated in that, leading to the killing of Dr. Tiller. This is not a fucking joke.
That's the best, most direct point. I was trying to think of it's impossible to prove that someone killed someone because of this or that. But when you don't know a person exists until Bill O'Reilly says his name, that example Liz gave was sadly not the first, but probably one of the most famous of examples of what we're talking about. That was Bill O'Reilly, a guy on a TV show. This is the president of the United States putting targets on congresspeople who, by the way, said don't follow unlawful orders, almost all of which were former military, by the way. And that's not a controversial thing to say at all. But then the administration, his mouthpiece, lied. They all are lying, defending him by saying that's not what they said. They're all saying that these guys said they told active duty military to not follow orders. That is not what they said. And the lie itself is also dangerous.
And don't you all feel too that the more angry they get about the fact that this video was made and the reason they're so mad is because there has been so much unlawful goings on that trying to get people to understand that. And Lindsey Graham, who literally was a JAG person, came out and defended it.
He's literally an empty barrel. It's not a great example to point out his hypocrisy. He's empty. He's hollow. If you look, you can see through him.
Yeah.
But
I mean, it's just like, it makes me feel like they're digging their own graves by being so mad about it, because hopefully it's going to be a reiteration of people to have to start looking at, why would Democrats make that video? And then when you Google, is the Trump administration, or is the military doing unlawful things? Google it.
Yeah, so I think that's what
a lot of stuff comes up to show exactly how unlawful they're doing. And, just the DC lower court just ruled sending the military into DC, not legal.
I think
but the other thing lost, and to the very point you're making, Liz, what we don't hear a lot in corporate media, and I don't watch corporate media a lot, but when I'll read about it, is the illegality of the military strikes off the coast of Venezuela.
Yes.
The UN last month, just like 3 weeks ago, had a big detailed analysis where they made it clear it's a violation of international law because it's not an imminent threat to the lives of Americans. And now we have reporting that the drugs that they interdicted were not coming to the U.S. in any event. They were going to Europe, but it has to be an imminent threat to use deadly force. And in our media, no one is probing this. There's been zero briefings by intelligence officials to our Congress. And the reason I find this out is by reading a bunch of articles from different sources. There's not things put together. I had a JAG lawyer on yesterday, Pam Keith, who said clearly what we're doing in Venezuela, off the coast of Venezuela, over 20 strikes, killing nearly 90 people, is a violation of international law. There's no basis in U.S. law or international law to do that. They have a few rogue lawyers write a memo that's secret, a secret memo that we've never seen that defends this.
Listen, you don't have to be Pam Keith or any other JAG. You don't have to be, what's his name, Tom Cruise's character in Few Good Men, Caffey is his name. You don't have to be a legal expert to know what they're doing. You can't just blow up boats. You don't do that. You can't. And if you do, you have to tell us who they were. You have to tell us what they did.
Why they were a threat to us.
The New York Times just did an investigation into one of the victims of one of these assassinations, these unlawful, illegal killings, and the family is broke. That's why he was doing whatever he was doing. By the way, anybody who knows anybody with a boat knows that you try to make money with your boat, whether it's fishing or shipping people or things. If you have a boat, you just have a boat. And if you can get paid a lot to ship drugs, you're going to do it when you're poor, and doesn't mean you should be executed by the American military. And that video that those members of Congress made.
Do you have a boat? Do you have a boat?
I had lots of boats and I was shot at.
Have you trafficked people?
I trafficked a lot of people from across the lake. One side to the other.
Okay, fair
it's all
enough.
legal. It was on the up and up. No one droned me. There weren't drones. I got hit by a knee board. But the point,
was Jeffrey Epstein involved with this? Did your friend Jeffrey contact?
Let's just say
he
you
loved
knew.
the pontoon. Jeffrey Epstein loved it. Loved it.
Loved the party boat.
Right.
The point, you can't do. They're warning the military. We already had one high level retirement because at some point, probably next year, Democrats are going to take over the committees, hopefully, and they're going to investigate people who gave and followed these orders. So in a way, it was a warning. Don't do that because it's illegal, and we still believe in the rule of law. Some of us. It's a huge deal.
Well, Liz, do you think Trump, before he leaves office, pardons everybody in the administration? I mean, literally everybody, because for all the crimes they did? Because he actually could do that.
The whole Pacific Command.
But he could do that for only federal crimes, but he could do it for all the military. Whatever you did, it's all forgotten. Blame me. I'm going to Rio, whatever. Like, what do you think?
I think that will be his plan if he survives his presidency. And I think that's very troubling. I do think that I don't know how you pardon everybody. Like, I don't know what the rules are around that.
That's it. He can just say it. Jimmy Carter pardoned everyone who would dodge the draft. He didn't even have to list their names. It was effective. A president has the power to pardon is unlimited in the Constitution.
Well, he better pardon the whole Pacific Command.
He could do that. Everybody in my administration, everyone who followed an order, every blah, blah, blah. And that's it. And they go, so you could charge someone and he goes, I was one of the people he pardoned. He doesn't have to have a pardon. Like, I was one of the people.
Regardless, that's a great question. But the bottom line is those congressmen, those Democrats, veterans made that video for a lot of different reasons. We talked about the immigration raids and so on. And it was an important video. And then the president of the United States said they should be killed.
I agree. And I'm dying to say quiet piggy to you, Pete, the entire time we've been on. But we're going to talk about that in a second. Because let's take a break and come back and talk about How is it that reporters get berated and no one else in the press pool stands up? And maybe there's a reason why that I don't get. Maybe they've made a deal. I'm not even kidding. Okay, we'll just take the incoming. Don't make ourselves the story. Or should they be standing up for each other when Trump is doing this? And not just because they're women, for any reporters that he's doing this to. So let's take a break, come back with more of what just happened with our friends Lizz Winstead and Pete Dominick right after this.
Quiet,
and welcome back. Oh, God, look who's here. Pete Dominick, as always, here. And Lizz Winstead, great to see you again. So we saw these two incidents, one on the plane, Friday, Air Force One. Trump says to the reporter from Bloomberg, Catherine Lucy, quiet piggy, because she asked about Epstein. And then Mary Bruce, ABC News, with MBS is there, the journalist killer. And she asked about Epstein. And he's like, what network do you work for? Fake news. You're a terrible person, a terrible reporter and all that. And both times the media reporters are around there like they just watch someone get shot next to them. And their response is, let me ask my next question. And maybe, Liz, viscerally, it feels like they should be saying something, but maybe in the big picture, that's not what they should be saying. I don't know. I'm lost here.
I think that they constantly wrestle with, is it better for us to be in the room and cover how horrible he is? Or is it better for us to stand up and say something and get thrown out so that there's one less person who's credibly going to say something? It's the only thing that I can think of. And also, Mary Bruce literally has labia of steel because she literally said, sitting next to you is a man who the CIA investigation shows chopped up a journalist. Like, she fucking laid it out.
Very good.
Bless her. Protect her at all costs.
Yeah, I think that the answer could also be, like, what do they do? Could be if he insults a reporter, whether it's quiet piggy or you're a terrible person, whatever it is.
Wow, that's chilling, that impression.
The response should be by the next journalist, the exact same question. When he attacks you for the question, the next person should have to ask that same question. Let him keep attacking everybody until he gets to one of his relatives that he gave a White House press corps. Until he gets to Lara Trump, whoever else is left in the briefing room, many of which are obviously sycophants.
Yeah, and they can ask about the marble used in the bathroom.
Well, yes, that's the question. You can cover the White House without being in the room, the Oval Office. Reporters covered it all the time. Don't forget, they've all walked out of the Pentagon as of last month, including Fox News, because of Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Beer and Tattoos, wanted them to agree to this whole plan where you literally can't write things unless it's essentially approved by us. So they all said, nope, we're not going to do it. But White House correspondence, it's a higher level. And I'm not immune to the real world, how hard it is to get to that level in corporate media. But if they walked out together collectively and just let the sycophants,
but we know what happens when reporters don't have access to the principal. It's Moscow. It's, you never get direct access to ask a question. And asking this maniac questions is really good and important because, as you can see, he's like cracking up. He's losing it at some of these questions, and that's good. It's good when he attacks reporters because we see who he really is and always has been. And you want that access to continue so that he can continue to demonstrate this absolutely maniacal behavior that he lives with.
And just to put a finer point on it, Dean, I think the difference in the Pentagon is, I think these Pentagon reporters have very strong relationships with people who will talk to them off the record, who will give them information, and they can still get that information. I think it's very different with the presidency and with being on Air Force One, and to Pete's point, especially real time watching Caroline the liar and real time watching Trump devolve, I think is important. And I don't know, but it doesn't really answer and I do love your point, Pete. I think they should all ask that question until it does, and just to show they won't answer the hard questions instead of just saying you're stupid.
So, sometimes he answers them after he does the berating. And then he gives the reporters more fodder to cover stuff. But listeners to the show who called up were very adamant, like, why don't you stand up for the reporters there? And I understand viscerally, that's my same reaction. If they would come out, the reporter, by the way, the White House Correspondents Association, as of still yesterday, didn't put a statement out condemning Trump for the attacks on the two White House correspondence reporters. And you're like, what is wrong with the White House correspondence?
Who's the president of that place now? Is it Eugene?
I don't know the person's name. It's not someone.
To some extent, that organization or any other reprimand in the moment loses its power because you would be doing it every day. But, you know, at how bad is...
This was very jarring. The Quiet Piggy thing was very...
Quiet Piggy
hit everybody viscerally. That was like...
is shocking. But if, like, he says shocking things all the time, what are we supposed to do? Like, if he was like, quiet, you dirty, filthy whore, like, at that point, would another reporter be like, whoa, you know, it's a little bit too far.
He's bleeding from her wherever's. That's pretty close.
He said about Caroline Leavitt the other day, he said, do you ever watch your lips? They move so fast like a machine gun. He said that. Those are actually a quote. He said that.
Well, and look, there was something else that Trump said this week. They get almost no press, but as comedians, I think it's still important to talk about Jimmy Kimmel. He again put in writing he wanted Kimmel off the air. He said, quote, get the bum off the air.
Yeah.
And all this stuff. Then Kimmel responded last night, really funny, going through it, that he posted that at 12:49 a.m. Eastern time, meaning he just watched the show and he was live, that Trump had gotten triggered live. Apparently.
It's so dumb.
Like someone else. And then he said, he had the joke there about like Butch Cassidy and the suntan kid. Let's ride off in the sunset together. And let me borrow a phrase from you, Quiet Piggy. He said to Trump, that was Kimmel's lines. But if you think about it, I mean, in this 1 week, Donald Trump has threatened ABC's license because a reporter asked a question. He's threatened it. He wanted Jimmy Kimmel taken off the air because he doesn't like his jokes. He called for Democrats to be prosecuted and then executed. This is in 1 week, the President of the United States of America. If you read about that leader in another country, what would be your reaction about what kind of country that is? Would it be a democratic republic like our country? Would you think that was the nation? That's literally what this guy did this week.
You would never have a leader like this anywhere before or after. This man, it must be said, is an enigma. There's never been anybody like him. Never. And there never will be again.
Well, look, in other countries, I will say this. People disappear. The leader doesn't post it. The person just gone. The network loses their license or like.
In other countries, men who lead this way are not nearly as fucking stupid as this guy, because attacking Jimmy Kimmel, it's just so dumb. Why would you go after a comedian who has a writing staff and a huge platform so he can get the last word? He said about Jimmy Kimmel, why don't we get rid of him? His ratings are canceled. Gives Kimmel and his writing staff an opportunity to write 5 minutes showing Trump's ratings are way worse than Kimmel's. I mean, it's insane how dumb he is, how little he thinks about strategy, how impulsive he is, that he's always driven by his ego. And I'm just saying, Putin is nothing like that. Orban, Mussolini, none of them.
No, they take people out and they look like they die of natural causes. It's never on the media. Like, it's so, yeah.
But I had Patton Oswalt on a couple of days ago because he has a new special and he came through Sirius XM. And he was saying, he was quoting his friend, to be fair, but he said it's like open mic autocracy. Like, these guys are not great. Yeah. But at the same time, I don't want, and it was funny the way he said it, much better than I did. But the idea, I don't want people to be lulled in the sense like Trump's not dangerous anymore. Like, everyone's like, he's a lame duck. He is very dangerous. He's still president of the United States. He can inflict a lot of harm through just executive orders, getting DOJ to investigate and destroy organizations. He's not done. So, Liz, when you hear people, you may have seen it this week, the big hot take is Trump's a lame duck. I'm like, I think he's diminished from where his zenith of his power was. I don't think he's a lame duck. I think he's still very dangerous.
So I think that the reason that he is even more dangerous than ever is not only that he is clearly diminishing in his mental capacity, but that Stephen Miller and Russ Vought and all of those people are filling that void.
Exactly.
At one point, Trump was being like, I don't know if I want to do that. That seems fucking crazy a little bit. And so things didn't. Now he is literally an empty vessel for the most evil people.
That's right.
And as we all know, the Trump acts on things. It's the last thing he heard. And if you know anything about people who are suffering from illnesses to do with Alzheimer's or dementia, that's what happens. They remember a thing for a second, and then somebody who's got power to put that into motion, those are the kind of things that happen.
I think the question you're saying is let's not forget this man is dangerous. And Liz just she took what I was going to say. I'll just try to add to it, which is, yeah, but his people are. All the people that are running each department, which we could name, and then we could tell you how they're destroying it and how that damages the public interest and the public health. So if Trump is not that effective, or if he's losing, or if he's crazy, and we start to think, well, he's not dangerous anymore. Russ Vaught's still there, and guess who else is? RFK Jr. And yesterday, the CDC announced there might be a link between autism and vaccines. So the damage that they're doing to public health, to the public interest, to education, to our foreign, to every friendship we have in the world, Trump might not be dangerous, but Rubio certainly does seem to want to have a war with Venezuela. Scott Bessent certainly does want to make some investments, and all those guys, Lutnick, all of them, they don't like Trump. None of them like him, but they are making out with whatever they want, including their ideologies, which are pernicious, insidious, and destroying America in so many ways.
Liz, on some level, the more diminished Trump is, isn't it better for them? They fill the vacuum.
That's exactly
Stephen
right.
Miller gets more power.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I think we need to both of your points, to look at those who have formulated a domination worldview that is awful versus those who are the tools of Trump, right?
Yeah.
But they're all fed through these dominators, right? Kristi Noem does not know fucking shit. She is told through the Edict of Rust vote that goes into how they need to do things, right? Pam Bondi somewhere in the middle. She's created and crafted, talk to anybody from Florida, a horrible, racist, Islamophobic, anti-immigration narrative. And she is a revenge queen and has honed that muscle before she got here. That's why she was picked. RFK, fucking susceptible to conspiracies up the ass, has a crazy, weird worldview.
I don't think that's fair.
You're right.
Why do you say that? You're
But,
kidding.
so I think there are some people who are vessels for the machine, but that machine still is the people who have
because what you just said, again, add to it, Pam Bondi is the Attorney General, and in her Department of Justice, the Civil Rights Division, which was created and whose mandate was to, generally speaking, protect marginalized communities, except for when Republicans are in charge and the whites become the marginalized community. Right now, that division is worried about the discrimination against white people and doing their best to erase black history. So you go on and on into Secretary of Education and what she's doing, and just keep listening. And the damage that's being done is happening. We have to make sure that we watch it, stand up to it, and do everything we can to fix it at some point.
And I would say too, a roadmap for folks is look at, you bring up the Department of Education. Linda McMahon was handed the Project 2025 playbook.
Yep.
RFK has got a little of both. He has his own agenda and the 2025 playbook. But the Project 2025 playbook is all these places. But where you want to look is who didn't really come out of that and is using part of that because it's mandated and bringing their own brand of garbage, like Scott Bessent, I would argue, is one of those people.
Yep.
Marco Rubio, I would argue, is one of those people. And so it's kind of like yes and Project 2025 to find out who the real evil monsters are.
And then there's just the others who are wildly unqualified for their job. The guy at FEMA who just left because he couldn't hack it, obviously. The Secretary of Transportation. The Secretary of Transportation is a complete fool who's also running NASA and had to, the head of the EPA is investigating chemtrails. I mean, name somebody. I follow this stuff so closely, I could probably tell you exactly what they're doing and who they are just to destroy our way of life every day. So it's important. It's really important.
And Sean Duffy, there was something he said this week, and it really is like
about dressing up on planes.
Yeah, it's like almost they're revealing the mentality of the 1950s that they want America to be run by. Sean
Ladies,
Duffy,
get in heels when you fly, so that everybody can really enjoy.
He made this argument that it's somehow part of civility. We return civility, make civility great again. And his exact quote was, "Hey, maybe let's go back to an era when we didn't wear our pajamas to the airport. We might dress up a little bit." You want to go back to an era where, there was segregation. I mean, you want to go back to an era where there's Jim Crow.
To be fair, he was talking about Lizz. I saw Lizz at an airport once. She was pushing a shopping cart filled with plastic bags. I mean, clean it up a little bit, Lizz.
In a onesie wrapped in a Snuggie.
True.
Look, here's the deal, sir. You want to go back to airplane travel where we dress up? Then how about serve a full meal with real dishes on the plane and have booze and leg space, and fuck you. Like, what does that even mean? This dude was literally the only transportation cred that he had was he was on Road Rules. He was on a reality show with the word road in it. That is it.
If a UPS plane crashed when a Democrat was president, and the reason for the crash we found out this week, if you heard about this UPS plane that crashed in Kentucky and killed like dozens of people on the ground, much less everybody on the plane. The cause was that the engine had cracks in it. Hey, shit happens. I'm not going to blame Secretary Duffy for that necessarily, but you better believe if a Democrat was in charge, they would have made all kinds they would have investigated and had oversight committee hearings on everything that they're doing. And they're just so inept, so many of these people. And the idea that they're in charge is what keeps us wanting to get prescription drugs every day.
But also, like, let's just really think about what Sean Duffy said this week for a minute. And this rapist administration, even when it comes to transportation, they're saying, but what were you wearing? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me?
That's good. That's
but
good.
Just think about it. His idea of bringing civility back is returning to an era that's gone. All of this dream of a time that's gone and mythologized is make America great again. It's also the same promise of all the fascist and autocratic leaders. That's how they come to power. And you remember people used to dress up and Sunday, wear your Sunday best. Like, remember when you used to go to church, that kind of stuff. Yeah. And I don't know what I've worn to the airport, but it's never made people uncivil. I'm like, Dean's wearing a t-shirt and jeans.
I wouldn't be
I'm going to
so
punch
sure
somebody in the face. Like, no one's gotten mad at what I've worn.
Yeah,
I've never seen anybody they're in pajamas. I got to punch somebody.
Dean for sure doesn't wear shoes and has bare feet on the plane. I bet you that's
I'm Muslim. I go naked to the airport to make my life a little easier. So there's less random. There's no randomness. I wear like a little fig claw. That's so. All right, we have 1 minute. I want a quick thing here because you're both in the industry. Right? At least Liz is. No, Pete is too.
Wow.
Fox News unveiled a brand new series this week. They were all excited. And all these celebrity names, Kristen Bell's in it, and Malcolm McDowell, and John Rhys Davies, and Brian Cox, who's a great actor. And they unveil it. The talent knew nothing about it. This was made 15 years ago. This company just repurposed it, which I guess you could do depending on the contract they signed. Fox News didn't tell them. So now these people are like, I had nothing to do with this. And I think it's amazing that Fox News didn't give a shit to even go to the talent and clear it now. And maybe just whatever they signed away 15 years ago. But some of these people were well known 15 years ago.
I mean, you didn't have to be a journalist to have fact checked that. The rest of the cast you didn't mention was Robert Redford and Chris Farley. Like, you knew these actors weren't signed on. Half of them weren't even alive. It's so stupid. It's come on.
Was that true, Brett? What was Chris Farley? You're kidding. I mean, some of them are gone. I mean, I'm sure there's a few really happy. I mean, maybe Stacey Keach is happy he's in this. I don't know. Michael York as Luke.
Of course they're not going to go to them. It's easier to get a cease and desist than it is to get a no right off the bat.
You get all the press. It's a faith thing. Kristen Bell's like, her people talked to Rolling Stone and they're like, we knew nothing about it. This was 15 years ago.
Scott Baio's people were really excited.
But they're like, why am I not in it? Yeah, why can't you just do it with John Voight and Kid Rock as Jesus, a very special Jesus,
Yeah,
and he comes out and sings. It's just like the Broadway show, the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat type of thing. All right, before we run out of time, Liz, where can people follow you first, my friend, and what's coming up on your plate?
They can follow me at Liz Winstead across all socials. I have two big shows in the Twin Cities. That's a year in review called the Winstead Files, where it's like, who's in my files? And we kind of go over the year. It's got graphics and video and everything. And then if you want to follow my activism, it's Abortion Access Front. And we are at Abortion Front on all socials. And I have a podcast every Friday called Feminist Buzzkills. Check it out.
Check it out. And my friend Pete, what about you?
Just listen to my podcast. It's daily. That's all I do. I work on it all the time, every day. I'm obsessed with it. I interview the best people, only the best people, including both of you a number of times. And you both have the open invite anytime, but you just seem like pretty big deals and hard to book. But I'm happy to be here with you. And then next week, I want to plug my parents' house. It's going to be a fucking awesome Thanksgiving.
You're going to be at your parents' house next week? Who books that? That sounds great. I got to get that. You guys have been great. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for being on. You've made us all smarter and made us laugh at times as well. Let's take a break. Come back with more of the show after this.
There you go. Dean Obeidallah, Dean Obeidallah Show on Sirius XM with Lizz Winstead. I hope you liked it. And that is all I've got for you on today's show. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope to see you at tonight's Hangout. Thank you to Dr. Rob Davidson. Go subscribe or support JL Covan at JL4NJ. And if you're not a subscriber to my channels, please do right now. Patreon.com/Pete Dominic. I cannot thank you enough for being here. Have a great day, and I will hopefully see you tonight or anytime on the Discord platform if you are a paid subscriber. Okay, bye-bye. John Carroll taking us out as always.
When you're tired of begging, saying pretty please, that's the time you gotta finally get up off of your knees. When you can't see the forest for the burning trees, you got to stand up. Hey, you've been sitting so long, you got the creaky knees, you got to stand up. Stand up. I think you're driving wheels with leaking grease. Boy, you better stand up. Stand up. Well, there's a whole lot more of us who know what's right. They'll keep right on ignoring us if we keep sitting tight. You got to open up the window to let in some light. You got to stand up. That's right. We got to rise up. You got to stand up. You got to stare the devil straight in the eye. We got to let him know it's his turn to go. See it clear when all you hear is a lie. So get up off of your butt, get down off of your fence. Even if it ain't a very friendly audience, well, they'll begin to listen when you start making sense. And you stand up. Stand up. No need to point your rifle to defend your town. Just stand up. Stand up. You know they can't deny you what you're laying down. Boy, you better stand up. Stand up. Show your face of every color, yellow, black, red, and brown. She's the place where every lost child will finally be found. There's only one thing to do before we stand our ground, and that's stand up. Stand up. Well, the founding fathers saw a land for all. They had to stand up. They had to stand up. They had a keen imagination for a crystal ball, drawing all the plans of a stand up. But all they had to go on was the time they were in, with other causes for laws, and since they weren't even sin, they knew that change was gonna come before the change would begin. They had to stand up. All right, they had to stand up. We got to stand up. We got to look the devil square in the eye. We gotta let him know it's his time to go and make it clear when all we hear is a lie. Why you lying awake wondering where the money all went? It'll be the cost of freedom that'll go unspent. You can see him flee the scene of that experiment if you stand up. All right. We got to speak up, we got to reach up, and raise your voice in every way you know how. Don't be toes up, you got to show up. Ain't no better time to do it but now. No need to pledge allegiance to no wanton tribe. Rise up, show obedience to the voice inside, and listen well and it'll tell you not to run and hide. It says stand up.